Exposed, how a millionaire's heart was transformed by a poor girl sleeping at a bus stop. Jack was the man everyone envied. With his sleek suits and a penthouse that kissed the clouds above Lake Michigan, he was the king of Chicago's corporate jungle. Yet, on the inside, an emotional void. His wealth suffocated him, trading affection for ambition. That night, rain drizzled onto his windshield, blurring the view and the reality of his life. It was just another evening out with the elites, filled with back-patting and hollow conversations about mergers and acquisitions. But fate had something else in store. As he pulled up to a stoplight, he spotted her. A girl, not more than 17, curled up on a bus stop bench, shivering in the chilly air. She clutched a frayed backpack and an old, tattered blanket. That image hit him like a freight train. In the comfort of his luxury vehicle, her finesse starkly contrasted the grit of his lifestyle. Who was she? Each droplet of rain mirrored the struggles of countless kids hidden among society's clutter. Something deep inside him shifted. Waves of guilt crashed over him, the kind he rarely felt. What was this poor girl doing out here? He shook his head, pushed the feeling aside, and drove off, but with Lily's image etched in his mind. Days passed, but every time Jack drove home, he felt an inexplicable pull to that bus stop. And finally, he stopped. Lily looked up, surprise flickering in her dark eyes. They struck up a conversation, slowly peeling back layers. She shared her story, one of chaos and survival, dreams stolen by abuse. Each word sliced through Jack like an unsheathed knife that he found himself returning weekly. Meals were shared, laughter was exchanged, and for the first time, he felt a spark of hope. Lily's dream of attending college and helping others like her ignited something in him, passion, purpose, a connection he hadn't known he craved. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, but just as Jack began lending his resources to support her community fundraiser, a scandal ripped through his company. It felt like a dam had burst, flooding him with fear. His world began to crumble, the glitzy lifestyle he'd built slipping through his fingers like sand. Everything felt dire, and all the money in the world couldn't save him. In the midst of his chaos, that image of Lily, the strength etched into her very being, flashed through his thoughts. She had fought for her dreams against all odds while he had let relationships slip through his fingers. Guilt morphed into clarity, and Jack stood on a precipice between two worlds. Would he retreat into his bubble of privilege or step forward into the vulnerability that could forge genuine connections? With emotions swirling and the stakes rising, Jack was faced with the most critical choice of his life. Would he dash back into the confines of wealth, or would he embrace the very humanity he neglected? As his heart raced, he felt the weight of transformation looming, the question of redemption blaring like an alarm in his mind. Could he truly connect with the world around him? Jack stared out the window, the city lights blurring into streaks of gold and silver. It felt like an illusion, the life he had always known. But now, in the wake of the crisis, that illusion was cracking. He could feel the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. He thought about Lily, how bright her spirit shone despite her desperate situations. Did he really have the right to wallow in his own troubles when hers were so much greater? In the following days, he found himself restless, leaping from one meeting to another, the corporate jargon echoing hollowly in his mind. Every time he answered a call or signed a contract, he thought of Lily, her laughter ringing out like a melody against the chaos of his life. There was a flicker of hope in her dreams, and they illuminated parts of himself he thought long extinguished. He decided he wouldn't let the storm engulf him. If he was going to fall, he would do so while reaching out for others. Finally, he made a plan. He called in the best members of his team, hoping to salvage what remained of his company. yet his heart wasn't in it. He could feel himself drifting further away from the facade he had meticulously constructed. Next on his agenda wasn't a sales pitch or a corporate meeting, it was Lily's fundraiser. He realized he wanted to help her change lives, starting with his own. Days turned into nights as he immersed himself in her project, shedding layers of detachment and carving out genuine connections. He got his hands dirty, working alongside volunteers, sharing meals, and engaging in heart-to-heart discussions. Each moment spent with Lily renewed his spirit, washing away the heaviness of his recent struggles. Together, they spoke to local business owners, rallied volunteers, and garnered media attention that was on the brink of being his right. But then, disaster struck again. A whistleblower revealed inner workings of the corporate machine within Jack's company. Allegations were made, fraud and corruption brought the entire operation to its knees. As the news broke, Jack felt the world he'd tried so desperately to build crumbling in an instant. The whispers ripped through the community, tainting his every effort. That night, Jack pulled up to the bus stop, where he had first seen Lily. It was dark, and the rain poured down heavier than before. He stepped out into the storm, desperate for clarity. His phone buzzed with news alerts, but he turned it off. He needed to breathe. He needed to be present. When Lily arrived, her eyes reflected surprise and concern. She could sense the turmoil swirling inside him. "What's wrong?" she asked softly, placing a hand on his arm. "I've lost everything again," he confessed, his voice catching. "And just when I thought I was doing the right thing." "But you helped me," she replied, determination lighting up her face. "You started something good, and that counts. It matters." Her words sparked something deep within him. Maybe he hadn't lost everything. Maybe, just maybe, this was his chance not only to rewrite his own story but to help rewrite theirs together. As they talked into the night, something changed within Jack. The storm no longer seemed as bleak, it transformed into a crucible. He could either allow his past to drown him, or he could rise up to build a new legacy. The question lingered thick in the air: would he fight to reinvent himself alongside Lily, or would he succumb to the very fears that had haunted him for years? And in that moment of truth, Jack felt a flicker of hope, a sense of rebirth. Would courage to stand by Lily be enough to brave the coming storm? The following day, Jack woke up to the sound of rain tapping against his window, the city a gloomy canvas of gray. He could still feel the warmth of Lily's words wrapped around him like a comforting blanket. Determined, he made a promise to himself. Today, he would take control not just of his life, but of the situation spiraling around him. He grabbed his phone and started typing a message to his team. It was time to have an honest conversation, to confront the allegations head-on. As he prepared for the impending meeting, he found himself pacing through his apartment, the storm outside matched by the turbulence in his chest. Every heartbeat echoed a fear intertwined with strong resolve. The worries pressed against his mind, but he reminded himself of Lily's unbreakable spirit. It was time to channel that strength. When the meeting began, he looked into the faces of his colleagues. They showed signs of confusion and anxiety, their eyes darting away as if the truth might hurt them. They were people who had once idolized him, now betrayed by the very news that had shaken their foundations. Jack took a deep breath, steadying himself against the noise of uncertainty, and leaned forward. "Listen," he said, raising his voice just enough to grab their attention. "I know times are tough, and the future looks bleak. But what they are saying about us doesn't define who we are. It's a storm we need to navigate together." A murmur flowed through the room, uncertainty swirling like the fog outside. Yet, the moment Jack spoke with such raw honesty, faces began to shift. Even if the hurt was fresh, there was an echo of recognition in his voice. Each word he spoke reflected a collective struggle, one they were all feeling. "Instead of letting this break us, let us turn it around. We need to show our community who we truly are," Jack continued, gaining momentum. "We need to take action, and turn this negativity into a force for good." The room grew quiet, and he could see some familiar faces soften. Yet, there remained a deep-rooted fear in others. But how can we do that when our name is sullied? One voice questioned. Jack felt a fire inside him. By sticking together. By supporting the community. We can align with my project with Lily the fundraiser, and we can show that we are committed to change. Let us rebuild our reputation, brick by brick. They stared at him, and for a split second, he was uncertain if they believed him. But then, one hand shot up, and another, a chorus of muted enthusiasm began to swirl through the room. By the end of the meeting, the atmosphere shifted. Plans were made, and small sparks of hope ignited among them. They weren't just co-workers, they were a team ready to face the storm. It wasn't an effortless process, but Jack could feel the wheels turning, the fibers of community knitting themselves together. He moved through the rest of his day in a daze, buoyed by the slight shift in momentum. He rushed to meet Lily at the diner they'd often frequented, his heart beating with anticipation. He wanted to share the news, to believe in the dreams they had painted together. As he pushed through the diner's glass door, he was met with the aroma of fresh coffee and the hum of conversation. But something was off. The usual chatter faded into the background as he noticed Lily sitting alone at a corner booth, her face buried in her hands. Jack rushed over, fear gripping him. "Lily, what's wrong?" he asked, taking a seat beside her. She looked up, but her eyes were clouded, glossed with unshed tears. "I found something out today, Jack, and it changes everything." His stomach dropped. What could possibly unravel the progress they had made? The storm they had just started to weather seemed to crash back down with a vengeance. He took her hands in his, their warmth grounding him. "What is it? You can tell me. We'll face it together." But as Lily opened her mouth, he saw the weight of the world collapsing onto her shoulders. Would they be strong enough to handle this new challenge? Outside, the rain began to pour once more, mirroring the uncertainty that filled the diner. Jack felt a chill, knowing that the coming days would demand more of them than ever before. Would they rise together, or would the truth tear them apart? Jack squeezed Lily's hands tighter, a warmth trying to break through the cold reality settling between them. The diner's chatter around them felt like a distant echo, drowned out by the rush of adrenaline in his ears. "What did you find out?" he urged, watching as her gaze dropped to their entwined fingers. Lily hesitated, her breath hitching. "It's my father." Her voice broke, and she took a shaky breath, trying to gather herself. "He was involved in financial dealings that, well, they connect back to all the allegations about us." Jack's mouth went dry. "What do you mean? I thought you said he left all that behind." She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "He did. But I found records that show his past is tangled up with a company linked to our project. I didn't want to believe it, Jack. I wanted to protect you, to protect us." Hurt washed over him, battling with anger. He was a part of this? After everything? Jack sank back in his seat, the weight of betrayal crashing down. It felt too heavy to bear, too close. "I didn't know," Lily whimpered. "I swear. I thought he was out of that life." Jack took a moment, feeling the pieces of his own identity shift beneath him. The very foundation of their plans seemed to be crumbling. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Every word was tinged with frustration, a mix of concern for her and fear of the slipstream of consequences spiraling out of control. "Because I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered, her bottom lip trembling. "I thought we could navigate this together without the past getting in the way." Jack couldn't face her. The pain of deceit twisted like a knife. He ran a hand through his hair, trying to process the implications. "So, what happens now? Do we pull the project? Should I tell the team?" "No," she pleaded, grabbing his arm. "Please, don't. We can still make this work. I believe in it, and I believe in us. But we have to be smart about this. Desperation clawed at her voice, igniting a flicker of hope inside Jack, yet the shadows of doubt loomed large. Smart how, exactly? You want me to trust your family after everything? Do you really think the community will stand by us when they find out? They don't know. Not yet. If we take action now, we can shape the narrative before it spirals out of control. We can show we're different. Her earnest gaze pierced through his doubts, contrasting the raging storm outside, but even as he listened, the thunder rolled ominously overhead, echoing the turmoil inside him. This revelation cast a long, looming shadow over their fresh start. He wanted to believe they could conquer anything together, or at least, he once did. Jack, we've fought so hard. Please don't walk away from this. We can face it together, like you said in the meeting, she urged, hope threading through despair. I need time, he said, more to himself than to her. I need to think about what this means for our future. For you. Lily looked at him, eyes glimmering with tears and a flicker of determination. Please. We owe it to ourselves to try. He could feel the weight of her plea. The rain outside picked up, hammering the roof, each drop a reminder of the challenges ahead. But somewhere in that storm, there had to be a path forward, one that didn't pull them apart into the currents of despair, but how could he be sure? Would he risk everything for her, knowing the fragile trust between them could shatter with a single revelation? As he stared into her eyes, the answer hung between them like a fragile thread, the choice to fight or to flee. Would they face the tempestuous tide together, or would the fear of the truth drown them? The weight of the world pressed heavily on them, and Jack wondered, could their love withstand the storm about to hit? Outside, the rain poured down harder, like a relentless reminder that tomorrow would bring even more challenges. And now, the very foundation of their lives hung in the balance, teetering dangerously close to collapse. What lies ahead could either bind them closer or tear them apart irrevocably. Would Jack be willing to face the truth to protect their love? Jack's chest tightened, a storm brewing inside him that mirrored the chaos outside. He tried to steady his thoughts. The diner, once a cozy haven, now felt like a cage filled with uncertainty, and Lily's once comforting presence now felt laced with dread. Her father's actions loomed over them, a specter of shame and distrust hanging thick and stifling. Okay, he said, forcing the word out, say we decide to keep this project. What do we do? He needed a plan. He needed clarity. Lily leaned closer, her hair swaying lightly as she searched his face. We gather the evidence. We explain everything before it becomes gossip. We have to be proactive. Her urgency clung to the air like the scent of rain-soaked earth. Jack rubbed the bridge of his nose. What if they don't believe us? What if they see us as just another set of crooks in a long line of crooked business? His mind spun with images of their shoddy reputations intertwining, suffocating them both. Lily shook her head, her voice low but fierce. They know you, Jack. They respect you. You've built this community up. Together, we can prove that just because of my father's actions doesn't mean we're guilty. Coming back to the diner felt unreal, as though they had both stepped into a hall of mirrors. Reflections of hope battled reflections of doubt. Jack stared into her eyes. Deep pools of determination. He saw a flicker of the girl he fell in love with, the spark that made him want to dive in and fight. All right, he finally said, the word emerging like a crack of lightning through the rain. We do it together. But if they discover anything else, if anything else comes out? He paused, struggling to find the right words. I don't know how to manage that. I won't risk our future on promises. Lily's hand squeezed his again, as if trying to carve out a safe space between them in the storm. We will handle it. I swear. I'll work with you every step of the way. Jack felt a brief flicker of hope. Their passion, their plans, all worth fighting for. But the weight of a possible betrayal kept pressing down on him. As he looked up, through the rain-smeared window, he could see shadows moving outside. Busy figures, ordinary people who had no idea of the tumult brewing in that small diner. "Do you think anyone else out there knows?" he blurted, his voice thick with trepidation. "About your father? About what he did?" "Not yet," Lily answered, but something in her tone twisted like a knife. "But the moment someone finds out, it will ruin everything." The thought hung heavy in the air. They had to act fast. Jack's pulse quickened. He couldn't let fear sledgehammer them into premature defeat. "What do you need from me?" Lily's gaze softened as she considered the question. "Trust me," she urged with fierce heart. "Let us channel this fear into something positive. If we're going to fight this, let us do it with everything we have." Hope intertwined with desperation in that moment. Jack watched as she wiped her tears, determination hardening her features. Maybe she was right. Perhaps they could reshape their narrative. But the risk was monumental, and with his heart in his throat, he wondered if they had enough power to withstand the fallout. The mood began to shift, the air crackling with the promise of resolution or chaos. Jack inhaled deeply, filled with a mix of dread and the intoxicating taste of rebellion. "Let us do it. Together." As they rose from the table, a new intensity surged within him. The world beyond the diner swirled with uncertainty, and a decision had to be made. But little did they know that shadows weren't the only thing lurking. They weren't alone in their fight. Just outside the window, a figure loomed, watching with keen eyes, a knowing smile creeping onto his face. What would become of their shared resolve when truths collided with evidence? In that next moment, everything they fought to protect might come crashing down. Would Jack and Lily rise above it, or would the shadows consume them? Jack and Lily stepped into the world outside the diner, their resolve hardening with each step. The rain had lessened, but the air was thick with the weight of unspoken fear. The streets, usually vibrant with life, felt solemn. Jack glanced at Lily. Her brows were furrowed, and the fire he had seen flickering in her eyes now tempered with overwhelming anxiety. "Where do we start?" he asked, trying to mask his own uncertainty. "We need to find proof, anything that connects Dad to this mess," she replied, her tone firm yet shaky. "We can check his office first. Maybe he left something behind." The thought of invading her father's space made Jack's stomach churn. But if this was their only option, they had to push through. Together, they headed to the old office building that loomed like a titan in the distance, its facade cracked and peeling. The air turned colder as they approached. "There's no turning back now," he said, more to reassure himself than her. Lily nodded, biting her lip. "Let us find the truth." Inside, the building was dim and austere. Dust danced in the shafts of light streaming through the windows. They tiptoed past dusty desks and neglected paperwork. It felt wrong, but the urgency of their mission outweighed their discomfort. "Over here," Lily whispered, gesturing toward her father's office. With one swift move, she pushed the door open. The room held a musty smell, mixed with traces of old leather and something sharp that caused Jack's throat to tighten. Papers lay scattered across the desk, evidence of a hurried departure. Jack felt uneasy as he sifted through the documents. Would they find something that would implicate her father? The thought made his chest race. As he flipped through a stack of papers, something caught his eye, a financial report that outlined significant withdrawals. His heart pounded louder. "Lily, look at this." They crowded around the document, fingers trembling against the yellowed paper. It didn't just list figures, it should have been a direct line to an explosion of damning evidence against her father. But as he looked at her face, Jack felt the walls of hope begin to constrict again. What if this isn't enough? Lily bit her lip, emotion flooding her features. "It has to be. This shows he was involved, but we need more." Her voice trailed off as panic set in. Just then, the familiar sound of a car pulling up jolted them both. Jack's pulse quickened as fear washed over him. "Someone's here. We need to hide." They dashed into the closet, squeezing inside, holding their breath. Jack's heart raced. He could feel Lily's warmth next to him, but the chill of fear surrounded them. Footsteps echoed in the outer office, and the door creaked open. Jack strained to hear over the pounding of his heart, trying to catch a glimpse of whoever had entered. A shadow moved past, and the faint light revealed a figure hunched over the desk. "It can't be," Jack whispered, his body tense with disbelief. "What?" Lily murmured softly. "It's him," Jack whispered, his voice barely above a breath. "Your father." What had once felt like a straightforward plan now twisted into something far more complicated. They were now staring into the face of danger, and with every moment that passed, the line between victim and hunter blurred further. As hope clashed with dread, Jack realized one crucial thing: they were not just uncovering truths, they were also unearthing layers of betrayal that could tear them apart. When the room fell silent, they exchanged cautious glances, hearts hammering against the stillness. All at once, a thought struck Jack: could this confrontation be the turning point they so desperately sought? Or were they simply digging deeper into a pit from which there was no escape? The stakes had never been higher. Would they emerge from this chaos unscathed, or would the shadows that lingered around them ensnare them forever? Jack held his breath, the air in the cramped closet thick with the scent of dust and fear. Inside, the reality of what they were witnessing churned in his gut like storm clouds. Lily was pressed against him, her hand trembling as she sought comfort, but he could feel her tension mirrored in himself. They were trapped in this moment, caught between safety and the man who had always been a stranger behind a mask of love. From the desk, he could hear her father's voice, low and gravelly, but all Jack could catch were fragments. "Didn't he think they'd come here too risky? Need to cover this up." Each phrase wrapped around his chest tighter, squeezing the hope of finding answers out of him. "What if he finds us?" Lily whispered, her voice barely a thread of sound. Jack squeezed her hand. "We can't think about that. We need to stay quiet." Suddenly, there was a loud bang, making both of them jump. The man stood up, his chair scraping violently against the floor. "Damn it! Where is it?" The urgency and frustration in his voice felt oppressive. Jack risked a glance through the sliver in the closet door. Her father was pacing now, running a hand through his hair, sweat glistening on his forehead. "Why did you do this?" He growled at the messy desk, almost as if it were a person. "You could ruin everything." Lily's grip on Jack tightened. "He's really scared," she breathed out, each word thick with realization. "He knows something is coming." They shared a look, one that said this was more significant than either of them had anticipated. This wasn't just about finding proof. There was a network of secrets that could unravel everything: her father's life, their own lives, and whatever fragile bond they had left. The door to the office suddenly creaked open wider. Jack's heart raced. A second figure slipped inside, a woman, confident and sharp. Jack had seen meetings like this before, too intense, too personal. She was not someone to be ignored. "What's going on, Greg?" the woman asked, crossing her arms. "You promised we'd be careful. They can't know we're involved." "Shut the door. We can't be overheard." He glared back, his voice rising, almost pleading. "If they find out what I've done, what?" Lily whispered, worry etched deep on her face. Jack's mind began racing, desperation closing in on him. This wasn't just a family issue anymore, it was a crime web suffocating each person involved. He had to act, to gather whatever strength he had. He leaned closer to Lily, whispering, "If we don't leave now, we might never get the chance. We have to know what's going on so we can expose him, right?" As they exchanged glances again, an unspoken pact formed between them. They wouldn't just look for answers, they would fight to uncover the truth. In that moment, another noise came from the office. The woman stepped closer to the desk and picked up the financial report Jack had seen earlier. "This is what you're worried about?" she asked, her brows furrowing. Panic coursed through Jack, adrenaline urging him to move. "We need to go," he mouthed to Lily. Before he could act, there was a chilling silence. The lights flickered as if on cue, and Lily turned to Jack, her eyes wide. What if they turn it all on us? What if he decides? Her voice trailed off in fear. Just then, the power went out, leaving them in complete darkness. Jack felt Lily's breath hitch. Now, he said, and they opened the closet door, ready to step out into the abyss of uncertain consequences. What awaited them on the other side could shatter everything they thought they knew about her father. Would they find out he wasn't who he seemed, or was this just the beginning of their journey into a world darker than they anticipated? The moment they stepped into the dimly lit office, Jack and Lily were cloaked in a cloak of tension and fear. The air pulsed with unspoken words, as if the very walls held their breath, anticipating what would come next. Jack could feel the rapid thud of his heart echoing in his ears, drowning out everything else. Lily's presence beside him felt both a comfort and a weight. They had crossed a line, and there was no turning back now. Lily peered cautiously at her father. He was still on the other side of the desk, his back turned as he spoke to the woman. She desperately searched for familiar elements in her father's demeanor, but nothing came. "I can't believe this is happening," she whispered, her voice shaking. "We shouldn't be here." Before Jack could reassure her, the woman turned around, her sharp eyes scanning the room. Jack froze, heart racing. But she didn't see them. Instead, her focus returned to Greg. "You need to calm down. You're not thinking straight," she said, her tone steady and cold. "If those people link us to this..." Lily's hand tightened around his, and Jack could feel the sweat dripping down their palms as the weight of the moment settled in. The room felt like a trap, each shadow creeping closer. Jack leaned closer to Lily. "What if we find something that connects them?" "Like what?" She shot back, her voice barely above a whisper, panic clawing at her tone. "I don't know yet," he admitted, lowering his voice, "but we can't leave empty-handed." Another bang echoed from the desk, snapping their attention back to the conversation. "The deal is still on," Greg insisted, his fists clenched. "But we have to act fast. If we don't control this narrative now, it's over." "What's the deal?" Jack muttered, frustration boiling inside him. He glanced around the office, searching for anything that might provide answers. His eyes landed on a series of files stacked haphazardly on a nearby shelf. They looked official, marked with labels he couldn't quite read in the fading light. "Let's check those files," he suggested, gesturing subtly. "Are you crazy?" she hissed, glancing nervously back at her father. "Lily, please," he pressed. "What we find could explain everything. I promise, we'll be careful." Uncertainty filled her eyes, but the desperation to know the truth outweighed her doubts. Slowly, she nodded. Jack felt a spark of resolve ignite between them. They slipped toward the shelf, moving against the shadows. Just as they reached for the files, the lights flickered back on, harsh and blinding. Jack's heart stopped. They looked at each other, panic-stricken, daring each other to move. Greg turned around at the sudden brightness, eyes narrowing. "Are you out of your mind?" The woman shouted, her voice slicing through the tension. "You're exposed. Quick!" Jack urged, grabbing Lily's hand firmly as they darted behind a tall cabinet. They could hear her father's voice rise, pouring out angry words knitted with chaos. Another voice chimed in the calm but striking voice of the woman. "This ends now. You don't understand the scope of what you're involved in." Jack's breath caught in his throat. They needed to move before they were discovered. He needed to know what secrets were buried beneath the surface. What had her father done? With no time for hesitation, Jack leaned in close. "We need to get to those files," he whispered urgently. "We can't let this moment slip away." With determination, they crept closer, hearts pounding against the walls of their chest. Would they find something that could change everything? Would uncovering the truth bring devastation or freedom? As Jack reached for the first file, the door behind them creaked open, and frozen in fear, they turned to see a glimmer of recognition in her father's eyes. What would happen next? Would they be caught, or would they finally discover the truth shrouding her family? The room fell silent, as if time itself had stilled. Jack's heart pounded painfully against his ribcage, each beat echoing the uncertainty that filled the air. Lily's breath hitched beside him, and he could feel the weight of her fear. Greg's eyes locked onto them, a mixture of shock and anger flooding his face. "What the hell are you two doing here?" he barked, stiffening in his chair. The woman beside him shifted, her gaze narrowing on the pair. "Run!" Jack whispered, urging Lily to move, but she stood frozen, caught between fear and the need for answers. "Dad, please," Lily said, her voice trembling. "What is going on? What are you involved in?" A flicker of indecision crossed Greg's face before it hardened. "You shouldn't be here. You have no idea what you're getting into." The woman, tall and commanding, stepped between them and Greg. "This is not a conversation for children. Leave now, before you regret it." Her voice dripped with authority, but Jack didn't budge. They had come this far. "Tell us the truth," Jack urged, taking a threatening step forward. "What deal are you making? What lies have you put in motion?" "Enough." Greg slammed a palm on the desk, his anger erupting. "Get out. You don't get to dictate terms. I've protected you both for too long." The words stung like ice, slicing through Lily's defense. She looked at her father with a mixture of anguish and betrayal, the realization of his secrets slowly dawning on her. "What have you done?" she whispered, the question hanging in the air, heavy with implications. "Something I should have never gotten involved in. You don't understand the stakes." His voice trembled, betraying layers of fear beneath his bravado. "There are consequences, Lily." Jack could feel the panic radiating from Lily, but there was something deeper within her, the stirring of bravery. "I need to know. If you care about me, if you really want to protect me, then you need to be honest." The silence that followed was deafening. Jack watched as Greg's resolve began to crack, his face shifting into something more vulnerable. "We made a deal that involves people who don't play nice. If they think you know what?" Jack interrupted, fiercely. "If they think we know, what will they do?" Greg rubbed his face, the inner conflict wearing him down. "They'll do anything to maintain their grip. The files, they contain everything. I didn't want you to get involved in this. I thought I could shield you." "Shield us? Or keep us in the dark?" Lily shot back, her voice rising, fueled by a mix of hurt and anger. Just then, the room's tension erupted as the woman stepped closer, her expression icy. "Enough of this. We need to leave now." Lily glanced at Jack, fear flickering in her eyes. "What if we find something in those files? What if it helps us?" Before they could respond, Greg turned to them, sunken eyes pleading. "Don't be foolish. You don't know what you're asking for." Jack met Greg's gaze, defiance bubbling up inside him. "We're not leaving without the truth." Time seemed to suspend itself. In that charged moment, as Jack steeled himself for whatever lay ahead, an unsettling thought loomed larger in his mind than the worry of being discovered. What if they uncovered a truth that would shatter everything they believed? With a renewed sense of purpose, Jack took a bold step toward the desk, ready to confront whatever awaited him in those files. But suddenly, the lights flickered off again, plunging them into darkness. What peril awaited them in the blackness? Would fear paralyze them, or would they finally find the courage to pursue the truth despite the lurking danger? Jack stood in the dark, heart racing, adrenaline coursing through his veins like wildfire. The oppressive silence enveloped them, broken only by the distant sound of rain drumming against the windows. He could feel Lily's hand tugging at him, her breath shaky. "We need to move," he whispered urgently, eyes darting towards the door as the shadows threatened to swallow them whole. As if answering his plea, Lily's voice cut through the stillness. "Jack, those files, what if they help us?" He hesitated. The allure of knowledge danced before them, but what if the truth was too dangerous? What if the revelations would only pull them deeper into despair? But the flicker of hope rose within him. They had come too far to turn back now. Okay, he hissed, the resolve crafting itself stronger by the second. But we need to be quick. We find the files, then we get out. No second chances. With cautious steps, they moved toward the desk, hands trembling as they rifled through piles of clutter. The rain continued to pour, becoming a symphony of chaos and urgency. Jack's fingertips grazed the surface of a folder right when the lights flickered back on, illuminating the tension etched in their surroundings. Greg and the woman stood frozen, surprise morphing into anger, their expressions darkening like the clouds beyond the windows. Get away from there. Greg's voice boomed, shaking the foundations of Jack's resolve. But now they were on borrowed time. Jack grabbed the folder, his instincts surging. He could read Lily's determination mirroring his own, and they met each other's gaze, silently agreeing on the gravity of their actions. "Dad, you have to explain," Lily cried, stepping forward, grounding him with her presence. "You need to tell us everything before it's too late." Greg's face crumpled, torn between fear for his daughter and the desperation of his situation. "You don't understand what you're dealing with. I never wanted you to know, Lily. It could cost you everything." "Cost us everything?" Jack's voice rose, the tension edging closer to a breaking point. "What you're doing, this life is a trap. You've kept her in the dark this whole time. Just tell us." The woman leaned closer, her impatience palpable. "We need to leave now, Greg. Before enemies find us here." But Jack pressed on, flipping open the folder, eyes scanning the contents. The words blurred as his heart raced. "If we lay it all bare, we can confront this together." Lily's breath caught, anticipation hanging heavy in the air. "What did you do?" she asked, her voice trembling that he found figures that made his heart race, dealings that didn't just implicate her father, but tied them all back to Jack's entire world. "This is connected to everything." Lily, fury and fear collided in her eyes as they realized the connection sprawled before them. They had crossed paths with something far more entangled than they could have imagined. "I'm sorry," Greg's voice was softening, despair creeping into his tone as he turned to face his daughter. "I thought I was protecting you, keeping you safe from the dangers that lurk in this world. But lying kept me in the dark." Lily shot back, tears shimmering in her eyes. "You need to understand that keeping secrets never protects anyone. All it's done is put us at risk." The woman stepped forward again, anger boiling beneath her polished exterior. "Enough. We're getting out of here. You're both making a grave mistake." Jack's pulse thumped painfully in his throat. "No. We can take this. We can expose everything. You don't hold power over us anymore, not like you thought." The shadows around them shifted as they stood, three agents of fear against two embers of hope, but they were stronger together. "Jack, I need you to trust me," Lily whispered, eyes glistening with tears but unwavering in her resolve as she turned to Greg. "If we're going to make it through this, you need to tell us the entire truth." At that moment, the tension broke. Her father stepped closer, vulnerability etching into his posture. "All right, but you need to promise to be careful. The risks are larger than you." "No." Jack and Lily exchanged a glance that said more than words could. They were ready to take the leap, to bind their fates together in the pursuit of truth. Suddenly, a commotion erupted outside, the sounds of hurried footsteps echoed through the hall, growing louder. Jack's blood turned cold. They were running out of time. "We go now. Come on," he shouted, adrenaline propelling them as they rushed to the door. As they burst through it, the chaos outside felt electric. Their future lay ahead like a storm, but they had a plan, a chance to rewrite their story, bind together, and walk forward, no longer in the shadows. As they staked their claim to their lives, Jack made a silent promise: no matter the storm that may come, they would face it, side by side. Together they would overcome. Now the door was opening for them into the unknown, and as they stepped out into the brightening dawn, hope washed over them like warm sunlight, igniting a fire in their hearts. It was time. Time to expose the truth, reclaim their futures, and rediscover what it meant to truly live together. This was the beginning of their true journey. The light shone ahead, a new promise on the horizon. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories unfolding in this journey. Leave a like now to fuel our adventure and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending, as we want to hear from you. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation and rise together. Don't wait not even one more second to stand with us.